Hello, hello, hello. Welcome again, ladies. I'm so excited to bring to you Master Menopause Metabolism podcast with Andrea Tornis. I am going to talk to you about something that comes up all the time in my DMs and in our program, why dieting stops working after the age of 40 and what peptides and hormone replacement therapy actually fix. So, if you're doing all the right things, but still gaining belly fat, exhausted, inflamed, this is for you. This episode is going to explain what's actually happening behind the scenes, happening hormonally, and what tools really are going to move the needle. And this is no BS, and this is personal for me as well. Most of you know, but if you don't, just a quick update on my story. I was IFPA pro bodybuilder and owner of a personal training studio, worked with hundreds of women's women, and essentially I was in great shape until I hit like 42ish, and the stress was unreal. My dad passed away the same year that we had to shut our gym down for COVID for a short time. We actually kind of recovered from that, but it was very, very stressful. On top of that, I was dealing with internal drama, like, especially with the masks and all of that when we did open back up. And so it was just like not a fun year for me at all. And then at the same time, I noticed I was gaining belly fat like gangbusters, but I hadn't changed one thing in my diet. As a matter of fact, I was doing CrossFit, 1,100 calories a day, 50 grams of carbs. Yeah, I was not fun to be around. And I didn't understand why, even after all of that, my body wouldn't work. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do spin 45 minutes a day because screw this. I'm not going to let my body, go to crap or whatnot. I have a business to run. I'm going to look good. And that didn't work either. So if dieting worked, you wouldn't still be here. Because I don't think women have a discipline issue at all. I think it's more a hormonal issue. Like myself, I was willing to go to the ends of the earth for my body and to keep my gym and to keep promises to myself. So I want you to understand that, we have frustration, with our bodies, and we can't just blame our age. Like there's more to it than that. So, there were times in my life where, I was doing all the things too, even in my 20s and 30s, and it wasn't really working the same. But fast forward to 40, 42-ish, that was a whole other story because I was gaining in a different spot in my body. But this is the real reason that weight loss gets harder after 40. It's due to hormone shifts. So our body is under a lot of stress. So we have estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, right? Those are our sex hormones. And they do a lot more than just, keep us female and give us that oomph, into our day. It is very, very crucial that our body is dependent on, and it's already a pretty complicated cycle, as you guys know. When you have babies, when you get your cycle back, when you're nursing, it's when your period starts. Like basically our body is very complex, and that's why we cannot, train like a man, fast like a man, do things like a man. We're not going to have the same results. Men have even keeled chemistry for the most part, but women, we've always shifted, right? Like even in our 20s, 30s, teens, progesterone, estrogen goes up the first part of our cycle, goes back down middle, and then progesterone comes up the last 2 weeks and, basically then turns off and we go into our cycle. And so that's pretty regulated, but even that's very complex. That's 3 different changes in the course of a month. As to how we should be training our bodies. Fast forward now to declining testosterone because we don't have the DHEA. Our body starts dropping that out, and then our estrogen is becoming erratic and our progesterone goes way down. And then in menopause, we don't have basically any estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone also can go way down. That is a lot for our body to deal with on a stress level. And then if you come into your dieting, so you're under eating, and then you're pushing your cardio to the max, and then you start not sleeping well, it starts affecting things underneath the scenes after time. And your thyroid doesn't regulate as well. And it just, everything starts to kind of disconnect. And so we get things called, I don't like to put labels on things, but there's something called insulin resistance. Plus, our cortisol is very sensitive. So we can have too high of cortisol. And so under eating just fuels all that. So this is where diets do not work anymore, and intense HIIT workouts and cardio, especially when our body is in a state of constant stress like that. And so what ends up happening instead when we do these strategies of, exercising, under eating, dieting, is we lose a lot of our lean muscle mass, which then creates a lower metabolic rate. So that's called BMR. So a basal metabolic rate, you want that as high as you possibly can. So the only way to really do that is to keep muscle or add muscle. So think about it like if your body's really stressed, it's going to become catabolic. And when we have lower amounts of DHEA, it then eats our own muscle. And then we're in an even worse spot when we go on vacation, or when we go through the holidays, for instance, or you just kind of want to take your eyes off for a while, do some social events, not always worry about what's going into your mouth. Well, you've lost muscle mass, and because maybe the scale did go down because you underate and did all the things, and now you're at a way worse spot. So then you start gaining weight like crazy, and it's like visceral fat, which is in the belly because of cortisol. So it's just a whole kind of, crazy cycle that you just don't want to be on. And that's why willpower is not the issue. So most of our BMRs are somewhere, between 13, 14, 1500. And that means at rest, you are burning those amounts of calories. And then think about a woman who goes on a diet like I did with 1100 calories. And like, that's an extreme deficit. Like, just to keep my body alive, mine is about 1400. So then I'm at 1100, plus I'm doing spin and CrossFit. Okay. So the spin class is going to burn, 250. And then I walk around and do things, because I have 5 kids and I got a life. So that's another couple hundred, so there's 400 more. And then CrossFit is, 20, 30 minutes of extreme, intense training. And a lot of the work is done after you do that workout. I mean, we're upwards of 1,000 calorie deficit a day. My body's like barely hanging on. And then my progesterone goes away. I mean, it's going to be a shitstorm. And that's exactly what happened to me. My cortisol was like, I can't keep up with this. And so it broke. It actually broke, which means it didn't give me any cortisol. And then instead of increasing testosterone levels with all the working out I'm doing, it actually decreased it. So why do traditional diets fail midlife women? Because under eating creates that cortisol plus fat storage. So even if you are, possibly going to lose weight, it's not going to be the right type of weight. You are going to lose that muscle mass. So that decreases your basal metabolic rate, which then also then packs on the weight on the midsection. So that's why we get that real rectangular kind of looking body, when maybe before we were a bottom gainer. And it just doesn't look good. Like, it's not tone. We're not losing inches. It just is not going to, give us the body we want. And then throw on over cardioing it, muscle loss like crazy. It's just going to become this vicious cycle. And that doesn't create the tone look that we want. So one size fits all plans ignores those hormones. And so, you hear all the time, if you're not in a calorie deficit, you're not going to lose weight, move more, do your workouts, be disciplined. It's all your fault. I don't believe that. Every single woman that I work with has a little bit different body. They have a little bit different circumstances, and they need a different plan. And so eat less, move more actually backfires. So even if you've lost 5 pounds on the scale, 10 pounds, if it's not done in a way that you're burning fat, maintaining muscle, to me, I know it's going to come back and bite you. And it's a long-term game. So there's no quick fix for this. But let's talk about like what peptides actually do, in plain English. So, what are peptides? First of all, for those of you who are like, I don't even know what she's talking about. Most of us do at this point. We've heard of Ozempic, we've heard of tirzepatide, Mounjaro. Those are peptides. And there's also more peptides like sermorelin. There's other ones like GHK, CU. There is BPC 157. So there's a number of them, but what they are messengers. They're not drugs. And so that's what's different about them is basically they are things that our body already makes, and it signals things to our body to kind of, just like when we get that breakdown of our hormones breaking down, like if testosterone's not there, it's going to mess with our dopamine. And then it's going to mess with our ability to gain muscle. It's the same thing with like sermorelin. It's a messenger to our pituitary gland to increase our human growth hormone so then we can maintain more muscle. It isn't human growth hormone. So it's different. It's sending your body a message to do something. So the GLP or the GIP is sending, it's already something our body makes. And so when we increase it, in, I think, a good way, a microdose type of way, or whatnot, our body acclimates to it, and it's a messenger to our body to reduce inflammation, decrease hunger cues, and really, keep our body feeling good and burning fat. So that's the GLP does some of that, and then the GIP increases the message to start fat burning and get rid of inflammation. So it's a lot different. It's not a drug. So GLP, ones versus fat loss, are metabolic peptides. How they support, things like blood sugar, appetite signaling, inflammation, and recovery. So they basically help your body facilitate that in its, like natural state. So if it's done responsibly, if it's done in a dose that's good for you, you won't completely lose your hunger cues. Your blood sugar is going to be a lot more even keel, which is that insulin resistance I talked about is happening because your body's under stress. And so fixing that is super important. So you're going to sleep better, you're going to recover better, and you're going to be less prone to overeat. So why peptides alone, aren't long-term success is because, or if they're not done responsibly, that to me is the same thing. Like I've had women who are like, I eat an egg a day, I don't really have any hunger, and they're not working out. And it's just like, wow, that's going to cause skinny fat faster than I can blink. And then where are you going to be left in a couple years? You can't stay on this forever. I mean, you could do maybe a microdose, but like after you've lost all that muscle, like you're not going to age well. Like it really affects their hair. It affects, a lot of things in the negative. And like there are the huge now, side effects of stomach paralysis and scary stuff, right? And so that to me is not a responsible way to do it. So this is why we've put it into our program, because I'm like, women are going to be out there doing it. And if they do, I want to just include it so that it's responsibly dosed, so that they also have lifestyle in check first. We can also do lab testing to make sure everything's on the up and up, and see them through the process. Do a reverse diet, once they get to their goal, take them off if they want to and be able to maintain this whole thing. And so that to me is everything. And then the other component of this is our hormone replacement therapy, which is now, women are getting on it like gangbusters. They're being overcharged for it. I feel They're also, still, it's not always bioidentical. I think it's the most misunderstood tool in midlife at this point. They also think it's a magic pill, like, okay, once I get my estrogen and progesterone, back on track in the right ratios, I'm gonna lose body fat. Well, not necessarily, because there still could be cortisol issues. There's still probably some inflammation. There's more going on. There could even be gut issues. So that, what it does and does not do. So basically HRT, does help to optimize those levels again. So it can get you, feeling better, like it can take the symptoms down. What it does not do, it is not out and out going to get rid of inflammation. If inflammation's there, it could be caused by food and many other things. So we have to address that on a lifestyle basis, and I've heard doctors talk about this at length at conferences, and it's so refreshing to hear this. But the only tool that doctors have in their toolbox in time is to prescribe it. They don't necessarily have the time to coach people on lifestyle and what's specific to them. So it's not going to get rid of that. So that's where the peptides could come in and facilitate that. But you still need to look at food. And this is why low estrogen testosterone affects belly fat and energy, is because, testosterone, like I said, it's very closely linked to dopamine and how our brain reacts there. Estrogen is our fat burner. So you will have some success, but you're still going to have to facilitate, the right kind of nutrition, lifestyle habits for yourself too. And so getting it in to check is only going to help your body to facilitate, more, but you're still going to need that coaching. You're still going to need to do the work on food and whatnot, but it's going to long term help you feel better. You're going to age better. You're going to maintain muscle more. So when you do throw in the lifestyle, it's actually going to work. Okay. So that's a cool thing. And so let's get rid of the fear and the misinformation, though. It's not a magic pill. It doesn't cause cancer. They've really ruled that out at this point. It actually can help in that way and facilitate when it's used responsibly, bioidentical. And why timing, dosing, and support matter as well. So, it's going to take your body some time to acclimate to it. The first month that I was on hormone replacement therapy, I didn't feel great. Like it was really raw. And I had a girlfriend, same thing. We have a lot of clients that are on it. And I actually had to adjust my dose. The progesterone was 100 milligrams. I think they started me at with a patch. And the patch, also, this is another thing. Sometimes we get histamine reactions to our own estrogen, which is very common. So I needed to put in something called Allerpro, which basically broke down histamine. So that's where those heart palpitations and all that stuff kind of happens in perimenopause, and those extreme mood kind of changes when our cycle comes back. My cycle even changed a little bit. So be expectant of that. And now, a year into it, I'm pretty solid. Like I know what's going on. I know what to expect. But it took my body some time to acclimate, and I did go up on the progesterone dose, and now things are good. Does it mean it's going to stay that way? Not necessarily. And so testing and seeing how your body's reacting, I think, is very important. And being willing to not just say, I'm done with this. Like anything else, it has to be customized to your body. And so give it some time, change dosing, change the time you're taking it. Works great for me at night. Doesn't mean it's going to work as well for you. My dose isn't your dose, et cetera, et cetera. So why integration is the secret sauce, ladies. Nutrition plus strength training plus peptides plus HRT. And that to me is like, wow, if we can bring these to your body, it helps facilitate everything. And talk about aging better, looking better, feeling better, and not having to wear yourself out. So it's basically like, we're going to work so much smarter, not harder. Okay. So the days of working harder are over. Okay, once you hit 35, I'm sorry. It's just not going to serve your body working out every day, doing the whole craziness. And even if you do get there, you're going to lose too much muscle and it's going to mess with your cortisol, which is going to mess with your thyroid. You're not going to be able to stay there. So just get that out of your head. We need to work smarter. So this is why one lever never fixes a multi-system problem. We're just too complex, ladies. You know it. Like, own it. It's okay. You're complex. You're lovely. You're perfect, just as you are. But understanding that, we're going to need a symphony of things. Like, it's kind of like when you go and you listen to one instrument, like they're playing the drums, and they're kind of warming up. But then suddenly, the bass guitar comes in and then you get the vocals and it's like, damn, this sounds good. Like, and all four or five things together are just like jamming. That's the same with your body. Like one HRT alone, it's going to probably let you down, honestly. If you're looking to lose weight, feel better on a whole, like you could feel better, but you're not necessarily going to see that. So, let's add in some strength training. Let's add in proper nutrition. Let's add in, our peptides. You get rid of the inflammation, you start losing body fat, you get rid of that visceral fat. Like, bam, now we're smooth sailing. And that to me is the way to go. So the difference between weight loss and body recomposition, I can't talk about that enough. Like the expectations to, have 20-pound weight loss in a month or 2 months is it's just terrible. Like you do not want that for your body. Honestly, it's just going to come back and bite you. So to me, it's like we really need to focus on fat loss, gaining muscle. And there's a certain way to eat, there's a certain way to train, a certain way to sleep. So if you're not sleeping, it's going to be really hard to do that. And that takes time. But if you do that, that to me is the smart way. And so we get rid of inflammation. We've got the peptide facilitating fat loss. We got the strength training, and that's helping you build muscle. And then we've got the hormone replacement therapy to maintain and keep that muscle. Bam, there we go. And you're going to have a whole new body. And this is where tight, tone, and smoking hot in our 50s, 60s, and beyond comes in. So who is this for? It's for women who want to stop dabbling, okay? This is not for a diet chaser. This is not somebody who's, it's for someone who wants to lose 5 to 10 pounds, absolutely. And you want to see more definition and tone in your body. That's who this is for. But it's not for like the quick fix. I just want to see the scale go down. That's not what we're talking about. So if you're interested in more information or you want to specifically know what would work for your body, I do strategic calls all the time. So DM me or just apply for the program. We can talk. There's no pressure. I have a 4-month program, and I feel like we're the only one out there right now that is offering HRT peptides labs all as part of this whole process, because that to me is what needs to happen along with coaching and education. So I don't really know any other program that is offering the kind of work we are for the price that we are either. So it is pretty phenomenal. So yeah, join me next week. We're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to continue the conversation. But yeah, send me a DM if you'd like more info. I am more than happy to chat with you. And like I said, there's no pressure, but hopefully this cleared up some of your questions as to why you're not losing weight, what's going on with your body, how to stop chasing the diet cycle and why it's actually working against you, and how to facilitate a symphony of calm and working smarter, not harder. Over 35. Love you, ladies. See you next week.